Hello. It's another Viewpoint time, and we're glad you joined us. We have an exciting new person to interview this morning. Her name is Sara Shier, and she's a candidate for Supervisor of our county, Tuolumne County. I know this is also shown in Calaveras County, for District 5, and we're going to speak with her today and see where she stands, find out a little bit about her background so you'll know her better. Sara, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me on today.
It's our pleasure. Let's talk a little bit about you.
Sure.
I know a little bit from what I've read, but personally have never sat next to you and had the opportunity to get to know you better. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little about your background. It sounds really exciting.
Okay, well, I am a California native and I graduated from Sonora High School. Then I continued on to do my education at Columbia College, and after I graduated there, I moved on to ultimately get a master's degree in TESOL, and that is teaching English to speakers of other languages. And that master's degree allowed me to go overseas and work in several different countries, in Japan and Vietnam and Myanmar. And I was able to create curriculum and improve schools there and evaluate English language programs and gain a lot of experience about what it means to be a leader. And while I was in Myanmar, the last country I was working in.
That's the old Burma.
That's the old Burma,
I know,
yes.
that's the way I think of it too.
I always forget to clarify that, yeah.
Well, it's been Myanmar for quite a while.
It's been Myanmar, yeah, for about the last 6 years or so. Mm-hmm. So while I was there, though, I really missed Columbia. I missed being here in Tuolumne County, and so I thought about what I wanted to do, and I ultimately moved back to Tuolumne County to teach at Columbia College, and I've been loving it a lot. Teaching there, I've been teaching composition and English as a second language.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How do you go about, just for a minute, because I have a teaching background also.
Sure.
How do you go about teaching English as a second language, just briefly?
Oh, okay. Well, how I go about it personally is I tend to use the natural approach, which is the idea that adults learn language very similar to how a baby learns language. So a baby would be born and then would spend several months just listening to the language, whatever native tongue of their surrounding is. And then after several months, they start to form sounds or words. And when those sounds have meaning, they are reinforced, and that's how they start developing language. So more sounds get reinforced, and then they build up their vocabulary, and then at the age of 5 or so, they start going into education and learning how to read and then write. And so it's very similar in an English language classroom. You want to expose them to as much language to listen to.
English.
Mm-hmm. Right? And you encourage them to speak as much as possible, and you expose them to reading and to writing. But ultimately, you just create an atmosphere which is conducive to learning English.
Fascinating. That's a question I've always wanted to have answered.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't have much to do with why we're here today,
Well, that's
but
okay.
I was curious about that. So you returned to Sonora. You had a master's degree in teaching in other languages, and now you're teaching English at Columbia College.
Right.
And is that a good, wonderful experience for you?
I've had a great experience out there. My students are really hardworking. They amaze me every day. I appreciate them so much. I've learned so much from them. The experience I've had has been so valuable out there. I really, really cherish the experience.
Fun?
It's so great.
It's great.
It's finals week this week, so I'm sure my students are probably thinking something a little different, but
I'm sure they are. They'll get over it. As long as they can pass,
it's
right?
temporary. In a week, it'll all be over. The grades will be in.
Do you have family here?
I sort of have family here. My father owns a home here, but he commutes from the Bay Area to here.
No, a second home.
A second home, right.
I see. Well, welcome to Tuolumne County, or back to Tuolumne County. You're actually not a native in the county, but a native in California.
Right.
So that's a very thorough, or fairly thorough synopsis, so to speak, of your English teaching credentials.
Right.
I could speak to certainly the teaching part of it, since I've mostly taught special education.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go on from there and talk about what your interest is right now, other than the teaching. You've also added a candidacy
I have.
in District 5
Mm-hmm.
for supervisor. So tell the folks what brought you to that point that you would want to share that.
Good question. So, as I returned home and I started teaching at Columbia College, I became more and more informed about the local politics and what was happening here. I had a couple of concerns, so I wanted to become informed on those issues. And what I found was that there's this disconnect happening between the local representation and what the community members are asking for. And so I thought about this and weighed my options, and I thought, a real representation of the community, a community member who doesn't have special interests, who isn't trying to achieve anything other than a better community, really needs to put their name in there. And so I waited a minute to see if someone else was going to take that initiative, and as I saw the deadline approaching, I realized that I was the person for the job, and so I decided to give my community an option.
Do you have a political background at all,
I wouldn't say
other than an interest?
I wouldn't say I necessarily have a political background. I was in student council and mock UN as a student, and so I have some experience of how that works on the school aspect, but recently this is the most initiative I've taken for this endeavor.
So you didn't go to college with a political science
No.
major.
No.
But you, along the way,
Mm-hmm.
had some secondary interest in what's happening politically.
Exactly.
And particularly here in the county when you came back. Am I
Yes.
paraphrasing that right?
Mhm.
Very good. So you decided to jump in.
Yeah, jump in head first.
Very good. And now tell us about when these elections will happen.
Well, June 7th, during the primary election, on the ballot will be myself and the incumbent, and people of District 5 can choose who they feel is best suited to take on the challenge of being their district supervisor.
Okay, so let's go to discuss a little bit more with your background and your interest in your... You have to care about this community.
I do. I care about this community a lot. I am here. I want to live here. I want to have a career here. I have 3 godchildren who I love dearly, who are in the school system. I want to stay here, and I want this to be the community that everyone knows it can be, and it should be.
I'd like to go back just a little before we delve into what perhaps you might like to see that's done a little differently, and ask you, when you were here as a student,
Yeah.
because you went on to college then and went overseas, were there concerns you had at that time, or do you see that coming back as an older adult?
Good question. So I did have concerns as a student, and as a high school student and as a young college student at Columbia College. However, I wasn't able at that point to really formulate my opinions. I was still in the process of developing my education. So there were things that confused me, that I didn't understand, that I didn't feel were right, but I didn't know how to articulate them and how to bring those issues up. So now I'm at the point where I've completed my education and I've been able to put that education into practice, and I'm seeing now more issues come up, and I'm seeing that I am able to articulate them and I am able to come up with good ideas.
Very good answer. Good. That's what I expected you to say. It's a matter of maturation and being in a place in life where you can take it all in a little different way. So you've responded to that knowledge that kind of newfound knowledge or something that's grown on you of things not being quite right, and you've decided to challenge an incumbent supervisor. What would you like to see in particular, the emphasis? Let's talk about that. You are District 5, which is mostly Jamestown, Columbia area, and but you do have a vote on that board. So.
Right. I am standing on responsible development. I think that's really important, and what that means to me is that we take all the different variables and we look at them and we create a synthesis that will be a solution not only for today, but for tomorrow in regards to our infrastructure and our community life. So I know that sounds maybe not super clear, but what I see and what I want to see improve in District 5 is that we have a very unique, wonderful, historic integrity, and we need to keep that intact. That is very important to us. We have the Railtown State Park, we have Columbia State Park. Those are huge, and they have a tourism industry that I believe can even be improved to be better for our community. And if we keep looking at development as something that is a quick fix for quick box stores and Walmarts and Dollar Generals, we're just going to pave over what we have and it'll be gone. So I feel like now is the time to step up and really fight for responsible development. We have an infrastructure in place. We have buildings, we have communities, and if we use what we have to the best of our ability, I don't feel that there's necessarily a need to start just building huge big box stores.
Not to mention the fact that the wages paid in those big box stores are not really, in many ways, not a living wage.
Right, that concerns me a lot. I had a student from the college come to me and say she was dropping my English class because she got a job, and I asked her where she worked, and she said that she had gotten a job at one of these big box stores. And I grappled with it for a while because I was thinking, okay, you have a job and that's good, and we want people to have jobs and we want jobs to be available, but now she's ending her education to make minimum wage. And the reality is that we need jobs that people want. We need jobs that can sustain a family and...
Not just need.
Right, exactly. So the other side to this too, I know I'm young, okay, so I have a different perspective a bit, and that is that I don't really shop at those stores. I find what I can locally, whether it's at the farmer's market or the farmery in Columbia or other local businesses. And when I can't find something I really want in the community, I order it online, and then it's delivered to me by someone who has benefits. So there's a couple different perspectives there.
I know there is a line of thought right now. Some people are concerned about what's going to happen to the good union jobs in the grocery stores that are presently here when the other large big box store opens its grocery store and presumably cuts prices. Those are union jobs with benefits, and let's hope they don't leave. So apparently you have the feeling then that the present Board of Supervisors, the way they're set up, they tend to go for the big box stores. It's my understanding that most of that is within the, well, not all of it, certainly, within the city of Sonora.
Right, so I won't speak for the current Board of Supervisors because that's not my place. But I stand on responsible development and I'm prepared to fight for that, me personally. I can't speak for anyone else, but that's what I stand for.
Very good, good. But we can see the results of what happens when people vote certain ways.
Yes.
And you have your own strong feelings. What other issue, other than planning development, do you feel strongly about?
Well, there's a lot. But
Good.
one of them that comes straight to my mind is the housing issue we have. So we are lacking safe, affordable housing. And that's just the reality of it. However, I have a vision, personally, that doesn't require apartment buildings. You know, we in District 5, we have a couple really great positive representations of safe, affordable housing that need to be encouraged even more. We have Habitat for Humanity for home buyers. We have the Columbia Village townhomes for renters, and everyone I speak to from those places, they love where they live. They love it. They don't want to leave. They can afford it. It's safe. They're raising their families there, and they really enjoy the area
How
there.
about that apartment house in Jamestown?
I'm going to get there.
Okay.
So I went down there. I have some friends who live there, and I wanted to go and talk to them and their neighbors and see how they felt about the area and just their ideas in general. And I found that every single person I talked to, not just at the Jamestown apartments, but all the apartments in Tuolumne County, they all said, you know, I'm just waiting to get into my aunt's place, or I'm waiting to get a better job, or I'm waiting to do this or this or this to get out. They all want to get out of the apartments.
But you said Columbia townhouses and the Habitat for Humanity, they're excluded from what you're saying?
They all
So there's a
speak very
difference
highly of
then
it.
between that affordable housing
Right.
and the one in Jamestown, or more than one.
Right.
Is that right?
So what we need to be doing, in my opinion, is looking at the positive models that we have in our community and around the state, around the country, around the world, really. What is working? What works in other towns around the world, and use that to responsibly develop our infrastructure.
And when you say infrastructure, you're speaking not only the housing.
I'm speaking of everything that's built by Tuolumne County.
Okay. And we won't even get into that, the Law and Justice Center,
Right.
which has been very controversial, extremely, because it has taken a great deal of millions and millions of dollars. I sometimes wonder if people in the county realize how much tax money from out of our county has gone to build that huge complex that's going to be there eventually, I guess. But most people don't think about that. They see it going up and they're proud that it's going up. And there's so few people, it seems to me sometimes, that really delve into and become knowledgeable about really what's happening.
Exactly.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I believe we have busy lives. You know, we have jobs and hobbies and kids to pick up and take to their hobbies and all kinds of things going on. We have such full plates that sometimes local politics just gets brushed off to the side. And I understand that, but that's why it's even more important to have a representative that really represents you and represents your community.
Exactly. If you can't be there or be up on everything, you have to trust that person.
Right.
Exactly.
And I won't sit here and pretend like I'm perfect or that I know everything, because I don't. But I am an active listener, I'm a researcher, and I'm very mindful. And I want to bring those things to the table, to the Board of Supervisors, and use those things to represent my community.
Very good. I think with your background, you have a good incentive to do what you have set out to do. And we certainly wish you well in this endeavor. there are forces at work that will not make it not easy for you, to put it bluntly, but continue on with that. So we have some affordable housing
Right.
that's doing well.
Right.
Others that is not, are not. And I don't think I was aware of that, so you have, I mean, I did know about Habitat for Humanity because I have interviewed them, but nobody from Columbia Townhouses. Who manages those places? Is there an agency?
That's a good question. I'm sure that information could be found online.
There's an agency for each of those probably. And there are people we can ask too. I don't think I'd ever given any thought to that at one point in my life. In fact, 2 times, in 2000 and 2010, I did the census. And that was a wonderful experience, actually. Saw portions of the county I didn't know existed. But I remember going to the Jamestown apartments, not the ones on Preston, but the ones down Campo Seco Road. No, what is the street that goes out of Jamestown? Anyways, that's on that street. And sometimes, considering that I'm thinking of moving into an apartment after 32 years in a house, I think, can I do this? Because I know some of those people probably didn't look too happy. Well, let me glance at your, and by the way, folks, this is one of Sara Shier's posters that she put out. Progress Together. Tell me what you mean by together.
Well, to me that means that I'm not just representing myself. I'm representing each individual person in my district and in my whole community. So I'm not going to make decisions or vote on things solely based off of what my opinion is or what my special interests, which I don't have any, but what special interests say I should do. I'm going to make decisions based off of what everyone in the community comes together and decides is the best option for the community. Now, I understand that might sound a little naive. Not everyone's always going to agree, right? But I truly believe that if I listen to many different ideas from my community, we can come up with a synthesis that will be a solution that will work.
Do you plan on having some town meetings, some get-togethers, and talk to your neighbors and friends and citizens, other citizens along the way?
Yes, I have been having a couple small get-togethers, and I also work at the farmery at the Sierra Hillside booth, so I'm able to meet with my community members on a bi-weekly basis, and I hear a lot while I'm working over there.
And you've said you're an active listener. So.
I am an active listener, yeah. It didn't come easy, but I've spent several years tuning that, so you know, I hear people come to me all the time and say that they have different ideas, and we in Tuolumne County, we're amazing people. We have some great ideas, and I really feel like if there was someone who could bring those ideas to the Board of Supervisors, some really amazing things could happen. I mean, I've heard great ideas about trails connecting Sonora to Columbia College. What a great idea. If you're living in Sonora and you don't have a vehicle, you can walk. It's not that far. There's no reason why you couldn't do it. If you're a young college student, you could walk from Sonora to the college.
Have you given any thought, I know it's not in your district and not a district question except for one reason, have you given any thought to trying to work on the trucks going through Sonora that bother people so much?
I have been asked about that a lot and about the roads, and I do feel like that's an issue that's going to require some new ideas. What's happening right now very clearly is not working. I think most people would agree with me on that our roads do not look good and they're dangerous and they're hazardous. And
I understand the funds are really not there. That's what I hear all the time. Or they're diverted
Well,
somewhere else.
Right. I hear issues of funding often. I hear that more than anything else. And the reality of it is funding is not a reason to throw your hands up in the air. If you don't have the funding through taxes, it's time to look at other resources, whether that be grants or other ways of getting money. If you want to accomplish something, you have to figure out how to get it done, not just say it can't be done because there's not funding. That never worked for me when I was overseas or even at Columbia, wanting to increase programs and increase connectivity to the community. Whether the funding is there or not, you have to figure out a way to make it work. And that sometimes involves getting creative.
There are creative people, creative citizens. And that's one of the reasons that I keep latching onto this, but thinking of your active listening, you know, if you bring people together and brainstorm what do you think we could do about this? And maybe they would not be realistic ideas, but they might be. Or one might be something that could be used.
Right. Or maybe someone comes up with an idea that's very creative, but it's not very realistic. I feel like I would be a good candidate to sift through that and find out what really is useful in that idea.
And doable.
Yeah, what's doable? We can't fix everything. I don't have a magic wand, unfortunately.
It would be nice.
It would be nice, right? But the reality is that we have a lot of creative people here. We have a lot of really intelligent people here. Let's use their ideas. Let's take their ideas, put them together, figure out what's doable, how it's going to be doable, and then enact that.
Wonderful. It's been wonderful to talk to Sara Shier. Her youth and her vigor and her positive outlook is inspiring. I know you've enjoyed it too. Play it again. We're on YouTube. Is the reason I said that. You can do that. So we've been speaking with Sara Shier. She is a candidate for District 5 Supervisor in Tuolumne County. The vote will be June 7th. Keep her in mind if you were impressed as we were with what she said today. She does have a Facebook website, www.facebook.com/Shier for District 5 Supervisor. And also she will, I think, give you her phone number, which our videographer will put at the end of the video.
Well, I would prefer if people contacted me with questions or comments via email, if that's possible. And my email is my email is sshier13@gmail.com.
Very good.
Thank you.
She'd prefer that you email her. So all those people with computers that want to know more or get to know her better may do that. Thank you for watching today. It's been our pleasure. Goodbye.